Watching the special broadcast of the AM report, Ayanda Nyathi here as we continue watching the tragedy unfold behind me. This building, 5-story building that's gone up in flames since the early hours of the morning. The death toll continues to gallop since we've started our broadcast of the story. When we arrived, around 10 fatalities were confirmed. Less than 3 hours later, that figure now stands firmly at 63. I'm afraid may still continue to rise. What we know so far is that officials from the city of Johannesburg, including at a provincial level, may very well arrive here for a more consolidated report around what else it is we know. The strategy from officials has been to go floor by floor as they continue sweeping through the building itself. The kind of rate at which some of those officials, by the way, have emerged with bodies has somewhat slowed, and unconfirmed reports we're receiving so far is that it seems that we are past the worst when it comes to actually going through the building and making sure that any remains that are still there, because now it is a search and recovery effort, are finally taken out. But of course the story continues to move past that. Many families desperate, I imagine, as they come closer to the scene itself to try ascertain whether their loved ones are among those who have survived. Ziniko Mhlaba is part of our team who's watching the story from a different vantage point, and I'm afraid, Ziniko, you're standing with someone who has had a tragic end when it comes to ascertaining whether any of their family members actually survived the tragedy.
Yes, Ayanda, we continue now putting the faces onto those who have been affected by this particular fire. We understand the fire, the number now stands at 63. So you can imagine how many people have been affected. The gentleman we spoke to earlier on spoke to us and told us that he lost everything, and at some point he wanted to step out of that building half naked. However, I've got Umama now, Umama Uspiwe Wakwangwabo. She was staying in that building for some time. Let's get her story just to get a sense of how this tragedy has affected Mama Siyabonga kakhulu ngesikhathi sakho. Ngicela usitshele nje usazise ukuthi ubunesikhathi esingakanani uhlala kule building nokuthi manje uaffecteke kanjani, yini oyiluzile, uaffecteke kanjani nje kahlahle wena njengomuntu obehlala kule building.
Ukuhlala kule building ngihlale ngo-2018. Njengamanje angazi ngizochaza ngithi ngihlukumezeke kangakanani. Umntwana omunye udlulile emhlabeni, omunye usesibhedlela. Njengoba ngihlezi kanje akukho enginakho, anginana nokuthi ngizoshona phi, nalo sesibhedlela mayiphuma ukuthi sizoyaphina naye asazi. Ngiphelele nje uba ngihleli khona la emgaqweni.
Ngicela usitshele ukuthi kwenzakaleni ngalesikhathi uqala umlilo ubukuphi wena, uphume kanjani, usinde kanjani, nokuthi mhlawumbe ingane yakho loluzile ngakhona usitshele ukuthi mhlawumbe kwenzeke kanjani konke lokho.
Mina kahle ngila egate-ini ngilekhishi engilenzayo. Ngisebenza ebusuku. Ngisebenza khona lapho mangizwa ngiqale ngizwa ngathi abantu bayalwa. Mangizwa ngathi abantu bayalwa ngishiftise itafula ngitshe ethi bazophuma bewele kulona. Uma ngithi ngimile esayidini bememeza abantu bethi kuyasha, ngigijime mangithi ngiyolanda izingane angibange ngisakhona ukufika e-second floor. Ngahlangana nabantu vele sebedlula bayawisana, abanye baphethe izinto ezinkulu ngiround ngithi ngiyongena kwelinye igate. Ngifike ngithola ukuthi sekumnyama vele namawindi aseyaqhuma nje ngoba umlilo wakhona awuthathanga isikhathi eside, i5 minutes ibenkulu. Ubusucwela ibhilidi lonke nje ngingasekho nanokuthi uzophuma ngaphushone ngaphi kungathi khona into etheliwe nje vele. Wazi wafika kubhuti wami wangena owasicimela omunye umfana ngefire brand, wazama ukungena wabuya naye umntwana, wathi mayebuya naye umntwana samuse ambulensini bamfutha basebembeka lapha phansi bathi useshonile.
Manje mama usizo oludinga njengamanje udinga usizo olunjani, ngoba uyasho ukuthi enye ingane yakho isesibhedlela njengamanje, ineminyaka engakanani yona lesesibhedlela nale hambile emhlabeni, ineminyaka engakanani ukuthi ungathanda ukuthi usizwe kanjani?
Lo sesibhedlela una 5 years, lo dlulile emhlabeni una 2 years. Okosizo angazi ukuthi ngizoqala ngichaze ngithini mfowethu. ngoba ngichaza ukuthi anginayo indawo yokuhlala, angina-ID, angina-khadi, noma ngathi ngilandela lo semoshwali angazi ngizofike ngithini, noma ngathi ngiyesibhedlela ngathi ngizosuka nganje. Ngoba nalapha ade ngisebenza khona ngisukume nganalo ngishiya isente ngishiye kanjalo nje ngigijimela iy'ngane zami. Ngabuya-ke sebeyithathele-ke benza bakwenza ngafike ngayibukela nami.
Siyabonga kakhulu mama ngesikhathi sakho, sizama ukuthola usizo. Usubhalisile yini la kubhaliswa khona abantu bakamasipala eCity of Joburg?
Yebo besengile ngawubhalisa.
Siyabonga mama ngesikhathi sakho. That's a very, very sad story to listen to, Ayanda. And Umam Spiwe was just explaining that she runs a small shop at the base of the building, which was engulfed by fire overnight. Also saying that she has lost a child who was inside the room, inside that particular building. Also saying that another child is currently fighting for his life at the hospital, by basically saying that as she sits here on this particular street, on this particular claim, she has nothing at all. She has no idea where she will go next. She does not have an ID. She does not have any form of cash, even from the little business she was running at the particular. So these are some of the sad stories, and I can tell you she's not the only one. Off camera, there are many other victims who are sharing with us their stories. So that's the situation here. We'll keep on trying to trying to track down the people who've been affected here, so that whoever is at home who can be able to assist these particular families in whatever way, in however way they must come through. Indeed, the situation is very bad from this side of us, Tolani.
Absolutely. Ziniko Mhlaba, my colleague, just a stone throw away from where we are, which is at the corner of Albert and Delsma Street, as we continue tracking the developing story of the hour, possibly of the morning, if not the week. 63 people now confirmed dead after the building behind me, this 5-story structure, went up in flames in the early hours of this morning. And often we come across devastating stories, but few of them leave us at a loss for words, and this is certainly one of them. Because frankly, words fail. I mean, how do you begin to describe the absolute heartache and devastation being felt by the scores of families who now have to try and chart a way forward in a context where, imagine when they went to bed last night, they'd never imagined that this is the kind of tragedy that they'd have to deal with. Many of them, at least from my vantage point, have been moved further down the street, and that is in an attempt to try and keep them safe. The scene behind me is getting a whole lot calmer now than it was when we arrived. I want to step out a shot quickly so that Nkosi, who's my colleague behind the lens, can get you a better sense of what's taking place there. In fact, it looks like the gates leading up to the main entrance have now officially been locked. Hopefully, in some ways, it means the death toll is unlikely to increase now, because not many bodies are expected to emerge from the building itself. But again, just for context, when we got wind of the story in the early hours of the morning, the death toll that was confirmed to us was 10. And less than 3 hours later, it's increased 6-fold. And then you juxtapose that, or you combine that information with what Ziniko has just learned from one of the survivors, who's told us that the fire itself didn't even take 5 minutes. So in less than 5 minutes, 63 people who were stuck in this building sadly lost their lives. It is, there once again, are very few words to describe how rapidly this happened, how widespread the devastation is, and what it will take for many of those who've been affected to pick up the pieces in some ways and to carry on with their lives. It is a developing story, firmly on our radar on Newzroom Afrika. The special broadcast of the AM Report continues.